the weight of children
The judge
who saw
looked
me
at
as
my
an
daughter
inheritance
across that
rather
courtroom
than a
and
person.
said 6 words
I
that
handled
made
it
her
myself,
face go
just like they
white.
told me to.
The adoption
And in
is
doing
granted
so,
and
I
finalized.
reclaimed my dignity,
After 15
my
years
autonomy,
of raising
and
the
my
grandson
peace.
she abandoned.
Sometimes the
After
hardest
she
part of
waltzed
love
back into
is
our lives,
recognizing
demanding
when it's
him like he was a
one-sided
piece of
and
property.
having the courage
After
to stop
everything
giving
she
to
put us
people
through,
who only know
I finally
how
had
to
the
take.
one thing she
That's my
couldn't
story.
take away.
Thanks for
Legal
listening.
proof that he was mine.
My name is Barbara, though everyone calls me Barb. I'm sitting here in my kitchen in Ohio, the same kitchen where I made countless school lunches and helped with homework projects for my grandson. Before I tell you the story, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop a comment and let me know. I always wonder who's out there listening to an old woman's story. Now I need to take you back 15 years to understand how we got to that courtroom, back to the night my entire world changed. It was November 2008. The economy had just crashed, people were losing everything, and I was sitting in my living room and watching the evening news when my phone rang. It was 11:47 p.m. I remember because I looked at the clock and thought, nothing good comes from a call this late. It was my daughter, Jennifer. I hadn't heard from her in 3 months. "Mom," her voice was shaking, "I need you to come get him." Him, my 3-month-old grandson, Mason, a baby I'd only seen twice since Jennifer had given birth, once at the hospital, once when she needed money for diapers and formula. "Jennifer, what's going on? Is Mason okay?" "He won't stop crying, Mom. He just won't stop. I can't do this. I can't." Her voice cracked. "I'm at the Motel 6 on Route 40, room 127. Please just come get him. I need to figure my life out." I was in my car within 5 minutes, still in my nightgown with a coat thrown over it. The 20-minute drive felt like hours. When I knocked on that motel room door, what I saw broke something in me. The room was filthy. Fast food wrappers everywhere, empty soda cans on every surface, cigarette butts overflowing from ashtrays. The smell hit me first. Stale smoke mixed with something sour I couldn't identify. And there in a car seat on the floor, not even on the bed, was Mason, my grandson. Crying so hard his little face was purple, his tiny fists clenched, wearing a onesie that looked like it hadn't been changed in days. The onesie had stains on it. Formula or spit up, I couldn't tell in the dim light of that awful room. Jennifer was pacing by the window, wouldn't even look at me. She was 23 years old, my only child, and she looked like a stranger. Her eyes were bloodshot, dark circles underneath them. Her hands were shaking, and she kept running them through her unwashed hair. She'd lost weight, too much weight. The girl who'd been captain of her high school volleyball team, who'd had such a bright future, looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. "How long has he been crying like this?" I asked, already moving toward Mason. "I don't know, hours? Mom, I just need a break. Just take him for a few days while I get my stuff together. I met this guy, Derek, and he's got a job opportunity in Phoenix. Fresh start, you know? But I can't bring a baby. Not yet." I picked Mason up and the smell hit me. When was the last time she'd changed him? I found his diaper bag, mostly empty except for 2 diapers and a half-empty bottle of formula that was warm to the touch. "A few days," I repeated, bouncing Mason gently. His cries were starting to quiet down just from being held. "Jennifer, look at him. When did you last feed him?" She shrugged, actually shrugged. "This morning, I think? Mom, don't look at me like that. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I never wanted to be a mom this young. Tyler," she meant Mason's father, "he took off the second I told him I was pregnant. I've been doing this alone." "You haven't been doing it at all," I said quietly. "Has he seen a doctor lately? His 3-month checkup?" Another shrug. That's when I knew. This wasn't temporary. A mother who cares doesn't shrug when asked about her baby's medical care. A mother who's coming back doesn't look at her son like he's a burden she can't wait to shed. "How long are you going to be gone?" I asked. "I don't know, a month, maybe 2. I'll call you, okay? I promise." She was already grabbing her purse, her jacket. "You're so good with babies, Mom. You always were. He's better off with you anyway." And just like that, she was gone. Left me standing in that motel room holding her 3-month-old son, with nothing but a half-empty diaper bag and a car seat that had stains I didn't want to identify. I should have chased after her, should have demanded more answers. But Mason had started crying again, and honestly, I was relieved she was gone. At least now I could take care of him properly. That night, I stopped at a 24-hour Walmart, bought diapers, formula, baby clothes, bottles, everything. Spent $300 I didn't really have. I was living on my late husband's pension and my part-time job at the library. But what choice did I have? When I got Mason home and finally got him cleaned up, changed, and fed, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. He had a diaper rash so severe it had started to bleed. His little legs were covered in it. How long had she left him in dirty diapers? I called Jennifer's phone 17 times over the next 3 days. It went straight to voicemail. On day 4, I got a text. "Can't talk now, things are crazy. Mason okay? Tell him Mama loves him." Tell him Mama loves him. He was 3 months old. He couldn't even hold his own head up yet. The weeks turned into months. I called Child Services, reported the situation. They did a home visit, saw that Mason was clean, healthy, thriving in my care. They tried to locate Jennifer. Her phone was disconnected. The address she'd given them, an apartment in Cleveland, she'd been evicted from months ago. I took Mason to the doctor, got him caught up on his vaccinations, started him on solid foods when he was ready, watched him roll over for the first time, sit up, crawl, take his first steps. Every milestone that Jennifer was missing by choice. I didn't have much money. I had to quit my library job because daycare for an infant cost more than I was making. $800 a month for basic care, and that was the cheapest option I could find. We lived off my pension, $1,400 a month from my late husband's railroad retirement. After the mortgage, utilities, and basic expenses, there wasn't much left. Some months were so tight I'd skip meals to make sure Mason had everything he needed. I remember crying in the grocery store when I had to put back the good diapers and get the cheap ones that gave Mason a rash. Remember choosing between buying him new shoes, his feet grew so fast, or paying the electric bill in full. I'd pay half the bill and pray they wouldn't shut off our power. I learned to be creative. I shopped at thrift stores for his clothes, found a church that did a free clothing exchange every month. I'd clip coupons, buy generic everything, water down his juice to make it last longer. The library became our second home because it was free entertainment. Story time, puppet shows, air conditioning in the summer. I'd check out stacks of picture books and read them to him until he had them memorized. But we managed. We always managed. Because that's what you do when you love someone. And honestly, we had something money couldn't buy. We had each other and we had joy. Oh. I taught him his ABCs using magnetic letters on the refrigerator. We'd make up silly songs about numbers and colors. When he was scared of thunderstorms, we'd build blanket forts in the living room and tell stories until the storm passed. When he learned to ride a bike, a secondhand one from a yard sale that I'd repainted blue, I ran beside him for hours in the summer heat until he got it. And when he finally rode on his own, we both cried happy tears. He'd help me in the garden, his little hands getting dirty as we planted tomatoes and green beans. We'd sit on the porch in the evening, eating popsicles and watching the fireflies. Simple things, things that didn't cost money but made a childhood rich. Every birthday, I'd bake him a cake from scratch. His favorite was chocolate with vanilla frosting. We couldn't afford big parties, but we'd invite a few friends from school, play games in the backyard, and he was always happy. He never complained about what we didn't have because he didn't know any different, and because he knew he was loved. When Mason was 2 years old, Jennifer called. Out of nowhere, just called like no time had passed at all. "Hey, Mom, how's my baby boy?" The casual tone of her voice made me want to scream. "He's not a baby anymore, Jennifer. He's 2. He walks, he talks, he calls me Mama." Silence on the other end. Then, "Oh, that's good. Look, I've been meaning to call. Things got crazy. Derek and I split up. I'm back in Ohio now. Different city, though. I got a job at a casino. Things are looking up." "Do you want to see him?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Oh, sure. Yeah, soon. I just need to get settled first, you know? Maybe in a few months." She didn't call again for another year. This became the pattern. Radio silence for months, sometimes over a year, then a sudden call. Always with excuses, always promising to visit soon, never following through. Mason started kindergarten. I was the one who held his hand on the first day, took pictures with the camera I'd bought at a pawn shop for $15. I helped him learn to write his name, tracing the letters over and over on construction paper until he got it right. When he made Mother's Day cards in school, he made them for me, little construction paper hearts with "I love you, Mama Barb" written in crayon. I still have every single one, pressed into a scrapbook I keep on my nightstand. When he was 7, he asked me the question I'd been dreading. "Mama Barb, why doesn't my real mommy want to see me?" We were making cookies, chocolate chip, his favorite. I turned off the mixer and sat down at the table with him. This beautiful little boy with his father's dark hair and his mother's green eyes. "Sometimes," I said carefully, "grown-ups make mistakes. Your mommy loves you, but she's not ready to be a mommy yet. It's not about you, sweetheart. You are perfect and wonderful and loved. Don't ever forget that." He nodded, but I saw the hurt in his eyes. That look would haunt me for years. By the time Mason was 10, Jennifer's calls had stopped altogether. I tried to track her down through social media, found profiles that looked like her but couldn't be sure, sent messages that went unanswered. Part of me was relieved. Mason had stopped asking about her. We had our routine, our life. I went to every school concert, every parent-teacher conference, every baseball game. I learned how to help with Common Core math even though it made no sense to me. I stayed up late helping him build a solar system model for science class, made sure he had the right clothes for school pictures, taught him how to tie a tie for his first school dance. Money was always tight. I drove a car that was 20 years old and made concerning noises, bought my clothes from thrift stores, cut my own hair. But Mason always had what he needed, always. When he was 12, I had a health scare. Ended up in the hospital with what they thought might be a heart attack. Turned out to be severe stress and exhaustion, but it scared us both. Mason sat by my hospital bed, holding my hand, this nearly teenage boy trying so hard to be brave. "I can't lose you, Mama Barb," he whispered. "You're all I've got." "I'm not going anywhere," I promised him. "We're a team, you and me. Always have been, always will be." Looking back, I think that hospital stay was what made me realize I needed to make it official. I needed to adopt Mason legally. If something happened to me, what would happen to him? Jennifer was still his legal mother. She could show up and take him, put him in foster care, anything. The thought kept me awake at night. But adoption costs money. Lawyer fees, court costs, everything. Money I didn't have. I started saving what I could, putting away $20 here, $30 there. At that rate, it would take years to afford a lawyer. Then Mason turned 13 and everything changed. My father, Mason's great-grandfather, passed away. He'd been in a nursing home for the last 5 years of his life, and we'd visited him every Sunday. Dad loved Mason, called him his little buddy. When the Alzheimer's got bad, Mason would sit with him and tell him stories, hold his hand, show him endless patience. After Dad's funeral, the lawyer read the will. Dad had left everything split between me and Jennifer. His house, his savings, his life insurance policy. It totaled about $180,000 per person. I cried, not just because I'd lost my father, but because this money meant security for Mason. It meant I could fix my car, put some aside for his college, and, yes, finally afford the adoption. The lawyer had Jennifer's last known phone number. He left messages, sent letters to her last known address. Nothing. After 3 months of trying to reach her, he told me the money would sit in an estate account until she claimed it, or until enough time had passed that I could petition the court. I didn't care about her half. I just wanted mine so I could secure Mason's future. 2 weeks after I received my inheritance, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. "Mom?" I hadn't heard Jennifer's voice in 3 years. "Jennifer?" Hey, so I heard about Grandpa. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral. Things have been complicated. But I heard there was an inheritance? My stomach dropped. Of course, that's why she was calling. Yes, I said carefully. Dad left you money. The lawyer has been trying to reach you. That's great. That's really great. Mom, I know it's been a while, but I've been thinking about Mason a lot lately. I'm in a much better place now. I've got a stable job, a nice apartment. I think it's time I stepped up, you know? Be the mom I should have been. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Jennifer, Mason is 13 years old. You haven't seen him in over a decade. I know. And I feel terrible about that. But people change, Mom. I've changed. And with this inheritance, I can really give him a good life. Give him things you can't afford to give him. No offense. The words hit like a slap. No offense? Jennifer, I've been giving him everything for 13 years. Love, stability, a home. And I appreciate that, really. But he's my son. Legally, biologically, he's mine. I think it's time he came home. If you're still watching and this story is making your blood boil like it does mine, please hit that subscribe button. Because what happened next? You won't believe it. Jennifer, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, you can't just show up after 13 years and expect to take him. He doesn't even know you. Then we'll get to know each other. Look, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm his mother. The law is on my side. I'm just letting you know as a courtesy because you've been helping out. Helping out. 13 years of my life, and she called it helping out. When were you planning this? I asked. Well, I need to get the inheritance squared away first, obviously. Get a bigger apartment, maybe a house. Set up his room nice. Give me a couple months. Maybe we can do a transition, have him visit on weekends or something first. She was planning this like he was a pet being rehomed, not a child. Not her child who wouldn't even recognize her face. After she hung up, I sat in my kitchen and cried. Then I got angry. Then I got determined. The next morning, I called a family lawyer. Her name was Patricia Mills, and she came highly recommended. I told her everything. The abandonment, the 13 years, Jennifer's sudden return. Do you have any documentation of the abandonment? Patricia asked. I pulled out the folder I'd been keeping since day one. The child services reports from when I'd called them. Medical records showing I'd been taking Mason to all his appointments. School records listing me as his guardian. Receipts for everything I'd bought him over the years. I'd saved them all, not for legal reasons, just because I was trying to qualify for some tax breaks. Patricia smiled. This is good, really good. We can petition for adoption based on abandonment. In Ohio, if a parent hasn't had contact with a child for a year or more and hasn't provided support, it's grounds for termination of parental rights. But she's going to fight it, I said. She wants him back because of the money. Then we'll prove that in court. But Barbara, I need to be honest with you. This won't be cheap. We're looking at around $8,000 in legal fees, maybe more if she contests it aggressively. I thought about my inheritance, the money I'd been planning to save for Mason's college for our security, but what good was money if I lost him? Let's do it, I said. We filed the petition in February. Jennifer was served papers in March, and that's when all hell broke loose. She showed up at my house on a Tuesday afternoon. I saw her through the window and almost didn't recognize her. She looked good. New clothes, professional haircut, designer purse. The inheritance money was clearly being put to use. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. You're trying to adopt my son? She was shaking with rage. How dare you? How dare you? Jennifer, keep your voice down. Mason will be home from school any minute. I don't care. You can't do this. He's my son. He was your son, I said quietly. You gave up that right when you abandoned him 13 years ago. I didn't abandon him. I left him with his grandmother temporarily. 13 years, Jennifer. Do you know what temporary means? I was young. I was struggling. I did what I thought was best for him. You did what was easiest for you. There's a difference. Mason's bus pulled up then. I watched him get off, backpack slung over his shoulder, and my heart broke. He saw Jennifer standing on the porch and froze. "Who's that?" he asked me, ignoring her completely. Jennifer's face crumpled. "Mason, baby, it's me. It's your mom." He looked at me, confused. "My mom?" "Your birth mother," I clarified gently. "We talked about her, remember?" Understanding dawned on his face, followed quickly by anger. At 13, he was old enough to understand what her absence meant. "Cool," he said flatly. "Mama Barb, can we go inside? I have homework." "Mason, wait," Jennifer started. "I don't know you," he said, his voice hard, "and I don't want to." He brushed past both of us and went inside, slamming the door. Jennifer turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "You turned him against me." "I didn't have to," I said. "You did that yourself." She left, but not before promising, "I'll see you in court." The next few months were a nightmare. Jennifer hired a lawyer, a good one, paid for with her inheritance. A fancy attorney from downtown with a corner office and a reputation for winning impossible cases. They painted me as an elderly woman trying to steal a child. They claimed Jennifer had been in regular contact over the years. She hadn't. We had phone records to prove it. They said she'd been sending money for his care. She hadn't. Not a single check. Not a single dollar. They brought up my age, 67, and suggested I wasn't capable of raising a teenager. Her lawyer actually argued in court documents that I might not live long enough to see Mason graduate high school. Can you imagine? Using my mortality as a weapon against me. They demanded a custody evaluation. A court-appointed psychologist interviewed all of us. Hours of questions, psychological tests, home visits. The psychologist came to my house, walked through every room, looked at Mason's bedroom with his baseball posters and his bookshelf full of books we'd read together. She interviewed all of us separately and together. When she interviewed Mason, I wasn't allowed in the room. I paced the waiting room for 2 hours, terrified of what questions they were asking him, worried that somehow they'd twist his words or confuse him. When he came out, he was crying. Not because the interview was hard, but because he was scared. "She asked me where I want to live," he told me in the car. I said, "With you." "But Mama Barb, what if they make me go with her? What if the judge says I have to?" "That's not going to happen," I promised, praying I was right. "We have a good lawyer. We have the truth on our side." "But she's my real mom. Doesn't that matter?" "You know what matters?" I pulled the car over and turned to face him. "Love matters. Being there matters. She might be your biological mother, but I'm the one who raised you. I'm the one who loves you, and no judge is going to ignore 13 years of that." The custody evaluator's report came back in our favor. She noted Mason's clear bond with me, his comfort and security in my home, and the fact that Jennifer was essentially a stranger to him. She recommended that if any custody was granted to Jennifer, it should be supervised visits only, with primary custody remaining with me. But Jennifer wasn't giving up. Her lawyer argued that with her newfound financial stability, she could provide a better life for Mason. Better schools, opportunities, things I couldn't afford. That hurt, because it was partially true. With my fixed income, I couldn't give Mason everything. We'd never taken a real vacation. He wore secondhand clothes. Our house was old and needed repairs I couldn't afford. But he was happy. He was loved, and I'd be damned if I let anyone say that wasn't enough. The court date was set for August, 6 months after we'd filed. Those 6 months felt like years. Jennifer tried to see Mason twice more. Both times he refused. She sent gifts, expensive ones, an iPad, designer shoes, video games. He left them unopened in the garage. "I don't want her stuff," he told me. "I just want her to go away." My lawyer prepared me for trial. We had our evidence organized. Every document, every receipt, every school paper I'd saved with my signature on it. We had witnesses lined up. Mason's teachers, our neighbors, his baseball coach, all ready to testify about the life we'd built together. But Jennifer's lawyer had something too. The law. The biological reality that Mason was her son, the fact that she'd never had her parental rights legally terminated, the argument that 13 years ago she'd been a struggling young woman who'd made a hard choice, and now she was ready to make it right. It was a good argument, a sympathetic one, and I was terrified it might work. The night before the trial, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen at 2 a.m., drinking tea and thinking about the worst-case scenario. What if I lost? What if they gave her custody? Would Mason ever forgive the system? Would he ever forgive me for not fighting hard enough? Mason came downstairs, couldn't sleep either. "Hey, kiddo," I said. "Want some hot chocolate?" He nodded and sat across from me. We made the hot chocolate together, the way we had 100 times before, adding extra marshmallows because why not? "Mama Barb," he said quietly, If the judge says I have to go with her, I'll run away. I swear I will. I'll find a way back to you." "That's not going to happen. But if it does, I need you to know you're my real mom, not her, you, and nothing some judge says will change that." I hugged him. Then, this boy who was nearly as tall as me now, and let myself cry. The courthouse was intimidating. All marble and wood paneling and echoing footsteps. The building itself felt designed to make you feel small, insignificant. Jennifer was already there with her lawyer, dressed in a perfect navy suit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her hair professionally styled, makeup flawless. She looked every inch the successful, responsible adult. Everything about her screamed, "I have money, I have resources, I can provide." I was in my best dress, 10 years old but clean and pressed, the same dress I'd worn to my husband's funeral. My shoes were sensible flats from Payless, and I carried a worn purse that had seen better days. Patricia Mills stood beside me, calm and confident in her simple gray suit. She'd told me that morning, "Don't try to look like something you're not. The judge will see through that. Just be yourself." The woman who raised that boy with nothing but love and determination. Mason had to wait outside the courtroom with a victim advocate. He wasn't allowed to be present for most of the proceedings, but he'd be called in to speak with the judge privately if the judge deemed it necessary. The last thing I saw before the courtroom doors closed was his scared face, trying so hard to be brave for me. The trial started. Jennifer's lawyer went first, painting a picture of a young woman overwhelmed by circumstances, who'd made the difficult decision to temporarily place her son with his grandmother while she got her life together, who'd always intended to reclaim her parental role when she was stable, who now, with financial security and maturity, was ready to be the mother Mason deserved. They glossed over the 13 years, made it sound like 5 minutes. Then it was our turn. Patricia was brilliant. She walked through every year, every milestone, every moment Jennifer had missed by choice. She entered into evidence the child services reports, the medical records, the school documents. She showed the court how many times I'd tried to contact Jennifer and been ignored. Then she called me to the stand. "Mrs. Walsh," Patricia said, "how many times did Jennifer contact you about Mason in the first 5 years of his life?" "4 times," I said. "Brief phone calls. She never asked to see him, never asked for pictures, never sent money or support. And in the 5 years after that, twice. 2 phone calls, maybe 10 minutes each. And in the last 3 years before she learned of the inheritance, 0 times." Patricia let that sink in. "Mrs. Walsh, why are you seeking to adopt Mason?" I looked at Jennifer then, really looked at her, and I saw what I needed to see. Not remorse, not love, but calculation. This was about money and control, not about a child she'd missed. "Because he's my son," I said simply. "Maybe not by birth, but in every way that matters. I've loved him, raised him, sacrificed for him. I've been there for every nightmare, every fever, every triumph and heartbreak. I've been his mother for 13 years. I'm just asking the court to make it official." Jennifer took the stand next. Her lawyer tried to rehabilitate her image, but Patricia's cross-examination was devastating. "Miss Walsh, when was Mason's birthday?" Jennifer blinked. October?" "It's September 3rd, Patricia said quietly. "September 3rd, 2008. When was his last doctor's appointment? I don't know. Recently? 2 weeks ago. He had a physical for baseball tryouts. What position does he play? Silence. Shortstop, Patricia supplied. What's his favorite subject in school? More silence. History. Specifically, World War II history. He did a project on D-Day that won first place in the school fair. Were you aware of that? No, but what size shoe does he wear? What's his best friend's name? What's he allergic to? What does he want to be when he grows up? Jennifer couldn't answer a single question, and everyone in that courtroom could see it. She didn't know her son because she'd never bothered to try. The judge called for a recess. When we came back, he wanted to speak with Mason privately, just the judge and Mason in his chambers. Mason was in there for 45 minutes. When he came out, his eyes were red, but his face was determined. We reconvened in the courtroom. The judge looked tired, like this case had weighed on him. I've reviewed all the evidence, he began. I've listened to the testimony. I've spoken with Mason. This is not an easy decision because the law generally favors preserving parental rights. But the law also requires us to consider what's in the best interest of the child. He looked at Jennifer. Miss Walsh, I believe you when you say you care about your son. But caring is not enough. Being a parent requires presence, sacrifice, and unconditional love. For 13 years, you chose not to be present in Mason's life. You had opportunities. You had the ability to call, to visit, to be involved. You chose not to take those opportunities. Jennifer was crying now. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Walsh, I've seen the evidence of your dedication to this child. I've seen 13 years of love documented in school papers and medical records and photographs. I've spoken with a young man who is articulate, well-adjusted, and clear about where his home is and who his mother is. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Miss Walsh, he said to Jennifer, your parental rights are hereby terminated. The adoption petition is granted and finalized. Mason Walsh is now legally the son of Barbara Walsh. The courtroom erupted. Jennifer was screaming. Her lawyer was trying to calm her down, and I just sat there in shock. It was over. He was mine. Legally, officially, permanently mine. Patricia was hugging me, congratulating me, but I barely heard her. All I could think was, I need to tell Mason. They let me go to him. He was in the waiting room with a court advocate, and the moment he saw my face, he knew. We won? He asked. We won. He crashed into my arms, this teenage boy who was trying so hard to be tough, and we both just cried. Brief aftermath. That was 3 months ago. We went home that day and ordered pizza, his favorite, with pepperoni and extra cheese. We watched stupid movies and didn't talk about the trial or Jennifer or any of it. We just were. Jennifer tried to appeal, but her lawyer told her it was pointless. The judge's ruling was solid. She sent a few angry emails that my lawyer advised me to ignore. Eventually, they stopped. The inheritance money is in a college fund for Mason now. Some of it went to the adoption fees, but what's left will help give him the future he deserves. He still calls me Mama Barb. I'm having his birth certificate reissued with my name as his legal mother. Sometimes I look at it and can't believe it's real. Hey, people ask me if I regret the years of struggle, the money I spent, the life I put on hold to raise him. The answer is simple. Not for 1 second. Mason is my son. He always has been. Now the world knows it too.